Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. The 2025 Formula 1 grid is pretty much all set, so let's look even further forward and try and predict who will be racing in Formula 1 in 2026. This is tricky because a lot of drivers have contracts for 2026 already, but as Sergio Perez is about to prove, a contract doesn't mean much when you have been driving like a pickled halibut. We also have a lot of new entries joining the grid. Cadillac will become the first new team in Formula 1 since Haas joined the grid in 2016. Ford will be coming back for the first time since 2004 with Red Bull and RB. Alpine will be using Mercedes engines. Aston Martin will have Honda power. And Sauber will finally become Audi. But what about the drivers? Who will still be around and who will be looking for a job at WH Smith's? Well, these are my predictions for the 2026 Formula 1 grid. So make sure you subscribe and let's jump into the video. Cadillac. Let's start with Cadillac, and no news on who will be driving for them just yet. A lot depends on who will be available. If Sergio Perez is looking for work, then Cadillac might be a way back in for the Mexican, and he has a lot of experience, which Cadillac could do with as they enter Formula 1 for the first time. It'd be best to keep him in a backstage role. The 2026 cars will be very different anyway, and it would be a good chance to get some new blood onto the grid. Colton Herta looked like a favourite for this seat, but with Andretti now not involved, sadly, that looks very unlikely. But if Jack Crawford can have a good season in Formula 2, then he would be an option for the American team. He was 5th in 2024, so any improvement on that should put him in the frame. As for the other seat, if Franco Colapinto hasn't been able to get a drive somewhere else, then he would be a good shout, as would Felipe Drugovich if Aston Martin still haven't given him a seat. But I think they'll pair Jack Crawford with someone more experienced, and that could mean a return to the grid for Zhou Guanyu. He has decent sponsorship behind him, 2 years experience with very few crashes, and he's not currently tied to any other team. Zhou might seem risky, but has debuted with Esteban Gutierrez, so Zhou wouldn't be the worst first driver an American team could have. Hard to say who will be, but Jack Crawford and Zhou Guanyu make sense to me. Audi. Another new entity, kinda, is Audi. He'll be taking full control of the Sauber team starting in 2026, and with their own powertrain. This makes them very, very interesting, and in their first year, I don't see them getting rid of Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Nico Hülkenberg has the experience and he's German, so he's a perfect fit for the German brand. Gabriel Bortoleto will depend on his first season. If he crashes out of every race in 2025, then you won't see him in 2026, but that won't happen. I think he will have a solid, if unspectacular, year in 2025. Nico Hülkenberg will get his first podium in Formula 1 with Audi, possibly even in 2026 if Audi hit the ground running. I've said it before, Audi always win in the end. Williams. This one might be a shock, but I think 2025 could be Alexander Albon's last years in Formula 1. I think he has been flattered by the likes of Nicholas Latifi and Logan Sargent making him look good. Carlos Sainz Jr. is about to come in and make him look very average indeed. Williams will replace him in 2026 with Franco Colapinto, and Alex Albon will flee back to DTM or maybe the WEC. Albon has only scored 43 points for Williams in 68 races. Not great, but better than any other Williams driver since Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas were at the team. But that's more of a sign of where Williams are as a team right now, and I think Sainz will just make Albon look very ordinary and force Williams to look elsewhere for 2026. RB. The Red Bull B team is always very hard to pick drivers for, as it relies on the Red Bull lineup being stable. Presuming Liam Lawson replaces Sergio Perez at Red Bull in 2025 and does a good job, then I think RB, or whatever they are called by them, will have a fresh new lineup. If Yuki Tsunoda doesn't get called up to Red Bull in 2025, then I think he'll leave the team. I can't see him staying on for a 6th year at RB. Isaac Hadjar might get the call in 2025 to replace Liam Lawson, but if not then, 2026 will be his debut year, maybe after winning the Formula 2 championship. As for the other seat, there are other Red Bull Junior drivers like Oliver Gerfer, Nicolas Solov, Tim Tramnitz, Pepe Marti, and Enzo Deligny. Out of them, Gerfer is the most likely, but I fear even he is underprepared. Ayumu Iwasa would be a good shout. The Red Bull driver will have spent a couple of years in Japan and will be a very experienced driver by 2026. This can now be considered the Liam Lawson route into Formula 1. Haas. Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman are under contract, but this might be a bit of a shout. I think they'll replace Esteban Ocon. The Frenchman will have a bad 2025, get outpaced by the younger Ollie Behrman, and find his seat under fire around the halfway point of the next year. His replacement in 2026 will be Toyota-backed driver Ritomo Miata. The Japanese star won the Super Formula Championship in 2023 with Tom's Toyota, and I think he'll have a brighter year in Formula 2 in 2025. And with Toyota being a technical partner with Haas, and the team principal being Japanese, they might want to impress Toyota by signing Miata. Haas wouldn't have a lot of other options. Next best is Pietro Fittipaldi, or giving the keys to Kevin Magnussen for a third time. No thanks. Alpine. Pierre Gasly is signed on for 2026, and I think his seat is pretty safe. Gasly always performs to a certain level, and he'll be troubling the top 10 again in 2025, and probably 2026 as well. It wouldn't make sense for Alpine to get rid of him. Jack Doohan only has a contract for 2025, and a lot will depend on how he performs. If he has a bad year, then Alpine have plenty of reserves in Formula 2 who could replace him. Paul Aron and Victor Martins, to be specific. Paul Aron would be the choice, I think, if Doohan does have a bad year, but I think we'll have a half-decent debut season, and Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan would be retained. Aston Martin. You know this lineup isn't changing anytime soon. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso are locked in for 2026. Lance Stroll isn't getting dropped by his dad, because it would make the atmosphere at Christmas dinner super awkward. Alonso has seemingly been getting frustrated with the lack of progress, or reversal in progression, but he'll stay on to see what Adrian Newey has to offer. He doesn't want to miss out on an opportunity of a first win since 2013. It'll be interesting to see what his relationship is like with Honda in 2026, after what happened at McLaren, Formula 2 car and all, but I'm certain this lineup won't change before 2026. Mercedes. To be honest, given the changes the next 4 teams are making in 2025, or in the case of McLaren, the lack of need to change anything, all the remaining driver lineups will most likely be the same in 2025 and 2026. So I'm going to throw in some alternative timelines if something had to change. At Mercedes, that would be Andrea Kimi Antonelli fails so badly in 2025, they have to pull the plug immediately. Who would replace him? Honestly, I don't know. Mercedes has links with a few drivers, but not many are top quality like Mercedes has been used to in the past. They would probably fall back on Valtteri Bottas in 2025 and replace him with Frederic Vesti in 2026, unless a better option emerges, like being able to grab someone like Pierre Gasly or Yuki Tsunoda. Honestly, if Antonelli can't hit the ground running, Mercedes might be in for a rough time. Red Bull. The team has just announced as I'm writing this that Sergio Perez is out and Liam Lawson is in. A slap in the face of Yuki Tsunoda that might make the Japanese superstar available elsewhere. Max Verstappen has been angry and frustrated with Formula 1 as a whole and has mentioned retiring young several times. But I don't think it'll come yet. As long as he has an opportunity to be successful, he'll stay. If Red Bull starts to drop down the order, then we can revisit this idea. Liam Lawson as well will be given 2 years, I'm sure. Red Bull have made mistakes with Gasly and Albon in the past, and surely have learnt their lesson. If Liam Lawson does have a shocker in 2025, then Yuki Tsunoda would get called up and be in the seat for 2026. That's the only alternative timeline I can see for Red Bull. Ferrari. Again, given the money Lewis Hamilton demands in a contract, they won't be getting rid of him anytime soon. Lewis is there as long as he wants to be, and Charles Leclerc has been the Ferrari golden boy up till now. So either Charles Leclerc gets frustrated with Lewis Hamilton getting preferential treatment and decides to leave, or Lewis Hamilton doesn't perform, starts falling out with the Ferrari bosses, gets booed by the Tifosi after insulting Ferrari, and gets the Alan Prost treatment. It would leave Ferrari with a seat to fill, not many real options. If Oliver Behrman isn't ready, I doubt they're going to risk someone like Arthur Leclerc or Antonio Falchio. If they didn't go straight back in for Carlos Sainz Jr., I don't see many other options out there for them. Maybe they'll throw Dino Beganovic a bone, at least temporarily. McLaren. Finally, McLaren and Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris will still be there in 2026, especially if they are troubling the top end of the table again in 2025. I can't see anything changing unless Cadillac start throwing around stupid money to get one of them to sign, and that is very unlikely. McLaren have the most sewn-in driver lineup. I can't even think up any alternative scenarios for the team. They have to keep Piastri and Norris. So there are my predictions for the 2026 Formula 1 grid. That's Jack Crawford and Zhou Guanyu for Cadillac, Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto for Audi, Carlos Sainz Jr. and Franco Colapinto at Williams, Isaac Hadjar and Ayumu Iwaza at RB, Oliver Behrman and Rotoma Miata at Haas, Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan at Alpine, and everyone else will stay the same as well, unless something bizarre happens. Let me know your predicted grid for 2026 in the comments below. Who do you think will be the first Cadillac drivers in Formula 1? Make sure you subscribe for more motorsport content. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas and have a good one.